Hello students. Today we are going to discuss about gonadotropins. Gonadotropins are the hormone which are secreted from the anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary secretes two gonadotropic hormone. One is FSH, second is LH. FSH stands for follicular stimulating hormone and LH means luteinizing hormone, also called as interstitial cell stimulating hormone ICSH. They are polypeptide hormone. They exist in monomer, dimer and tetramer forms. They are secreted under the influence of hypothalamic gonadotropin releasing hormone, that is GnRH. This is the feedback mechanism for hypothalamo-pituitary ovarian or gonadal axis. From the hypothalamus, gonadotropin releasing hormone is released, which will act on the anterior pituitary and stimulate the FSH and LH release. This FSH and LH will act on the testes and ovaries as per the gender, and the ovaries will release estrogen and progesterone. This estrogen and progesterone, when the blood level of this hormone increases, they will send a negative feedback mechanism that on the anterior pituitary, so that further release of estrogen and progesterone is inhibited. They also send a signal to the hypothalamus so that GnRH release is inhibited. So the first inhibition is called a short loop inhibition, where blood level of estrogen and progesterone will act on the anterior pituitary to give a negative feedback mechanism, and there is a long loop inhibition where the estrogen and progesterone will act on the hypothalamus to produce the negative feedback mechanism. Similarly, into the males, testosterone level of the blood will send a negative feedback mechanism to the anterior pituitary for the release of FSH and LH, and to the hypothalamus for the inhibition of the release of GnRH. There is one another loop that is called as ultra short loop, where there is a regulatory mechanism from the anterior pituitary to the hypothalamus. Whenever anterior pituitary has a sufficient concentration of FSH and LH hormones, it will send a negative feedback mechanism to the hypothalamus that further GnRH is not required. That is called as ultra short loop inhibitory mechanism. So if we see the physiology of gonadotropin, there is huge control mechanism lying at the level of hypothalamo-pituitary gonadal axis, which is controlled by the long feedback mechanism where the gonadal sex hormone act on the hypothalamus directly to produce negative feedback mechanism or positive feedback mechanism based on the blood concentration of the estrogen, progesterone or testosterone, as discussed in the earlier slide. There is a short feedback mechanism where there is direct action of sex hormone and anterior pituitary for the regulation of gonadotropin release, and there is a ultra short negative feedback mechanism where the anterior pituitary controls the release of the hypothalamic hormone. Regulatory mechanism in hypothalamus resides in two centers. One is the tonic center, which is ventromedial and arcuate nucleus. It is dominant into the males, which cause activation of the pituitary, causing stimulation of the testis, and production of the testosterone, and spermatogenesis is there into the male under the influence of this tonic center. And another center is called a cyclic center, which is located at the preoptic chiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus. It is dominant into the females due to lack of the androgenic stimuli. It allows the development of hypothalamic clock, which is essential for the cyclical release of the gonadotropin, which is responsible for the cyclical menstrual cycle and cyclical release of the hormone into the females. This is the physiology of the menstrual cycle. You must have learned this into the physiology sections also. Just revise it fast. At the hormonal level, gonadotropic hormones FSH and LH are released. Basically, they are divided into two phases, follicular phase and luteal phase. Into the follicular phase, there is a release of follicular stimulating hormone along with the luteinizing hormone. Just before the ovulation, there is a peak of the LH hormone, that is called as LH surge, which goes down further and it is maintained throughout the cycle. Along with this hormones, the ovaries has the cycle where the follicular development occurs. Into the ovaries, there is a pre-ovulatory phase, ovulation, and post-ovulatory phase. Pre-ovulatory phase, there is a development of follicles under the influence of FSH, and at the time of ovulation, one follicle is released, and if pregnancy does not take place, there is a post-ovulatory phase where the ovaries will recover for the next cycle. Ovarian hormone, estrogen is the predominant hormone into the follicular phase and progesterone is the predominant hormone into the luteal phase. And along with it, there is a uterine changes also occur, which in the proliferative phase, under the influence of estrogen, the uterine endometrium starts proliferating, and into the secretory phase, there is a secretory change into the uterine endometrium occurs, which and prepares the uterus for the implantation. And if implantation does not take place, there is a menstrual bleeding, which is usually release of this uterine endometrium cells as a blood flow. So in females, there is a cyclical release of hormone. Along with it, there is a ovarian cycle. Ovaries also release the hormone, and there is a uterine cycle. So various hormonal changes occur during 28-day menstrual cycle, where day 1 is usually considered as the first day of menstrual flow. 3 cycles running simultaneously into coordination with each other. One is ovarian cycle, which is pre-ovulatory phase, ovulation, and post-ovulatory phase, as discussed into the earlier slide. There is a hormonal cycle where there is a release of FSH and LH, where first phase FSH release is more, then there is a LH surge, and then there is a corpus luteum where the progesterone level is high as compared to estrogen. And there is a uterine cycle which is divided into 3 phases: proliferative phase, secretory phase, and menstruation, as depicted into the earlier diagram. Now we see each of the cycle in little bit more detail. First we discuss ovarian cycle. Ovarian cycle starts with the ovarian follicle growth. It is initiated by the FSH hormone, that is follicular stimulating hormone, which proceeds independently to pre-ovulatory phase. Rise into the FSH level is followed by rise of the blood estradiol levels. Follicle don't release estradiol under the influence of FSH alone. Some amount of LH hormone is also essential for the release of this estrogen. Most FSH stimulated follicles, they undergo atresia, but only one follicle, also called as dominant follicle or Graafian follicle, it will per one follicle per menstrual cycle will become the Graafian follicle, and it will ovulate at the time of ovulation. Second phase of the ovarian cycle is ovulation. The ovulatory peaks of FSH and LH, that is 11 to 23 days, timing has no association with the length of the cycle. Following the large quantity of the LH, that is also called as LH surge, follicle size increases and follicle ruptures, and it releases the mature ovum. The peaks of estradiol and 17-alpha hydroxyprogesterone precedes the mid-cycle LH surge. After the follicular rupture, follicle undergo reorganization to the corpus luteum. And the third phase of the ovarian cycle is corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is also identified as independent endocrine organ. Lifespan of the corpus luteum in non-pregnant cycle is 11 days, and functional lifespan of the corpus luteum in pregnancy is 9 to 10 weeks. 17-alpha hydroxyprogesterone, main hormone which is secreted in less amount estradiol and some other steroids are also there along with it. Another cycle which goes in along with the ovarian cycle into the females is hormonal cycle. Hormonal cycle has pre-ovulatory phase, where FSH mediated growth and development of the ovarian follicle with small amount of LH is there, and one there is a large development of follicle that is called as Graafian follicle, that growth is usually estrogen dependent. Into the ovulation, pre-ovulatory LH surge is essential for the ovulation to occur. Into the pre-ovulatory phase, FSH hormone is having greater role with small quantity of LH. But just before the ovulation, LH hormone increases in the quantity that is called as LH surge. It is initiated by increase in the pituitary sensitivity to GnRH and high estradiol levels, which will cause increased discharge of GnRH in response to ovarian stimuli. Large quantity of LH release abruptly, and that is LH surge is the main hormonal mechanism responsible for the ovulation to occur. And into the post-ovulatory phase, corpus luteum formation occurs. The corpus luteum releases the progesterone, which is the main hormone into the post-ovulatory phase. It suppresses the sensitivity of the pituitary to GnRH and suppresses hypothalamus. In absence of pregnancy, progesterone and estrogen remains high for 8 days and then fall abruptly, leading to menstruation or the menstrual flow into the post-ovulatory phase. Simultaneously, we see the uterine cycle also. In the proliferative phase, endometrium proliferates and gets ready for implantation if conception occurs. Cervical mucus is thin and permeable to the entry of the sperm during this phase of the uterine cycle. Into the secretory phase, endometrium starts becoming more and more secretory in nature, and cervical mucus becomes thick and viscid, which is not suitable for the entry of sperms. Menstruation, under the withdrawal of the progesterone and estrogen, endometrium of the uterus starts shedding off, which leads to bleeding identified as menstruation. Now we see there is a hypothalamic pituitary ovarian relationship which controls this cyclical release of the hormone, and pulsatility of the hormonal release is also essential for maintaining this balance. LH is released in discrete bursts or pulses. It is released as pulses every 1 to 2 hours, separated by the period of no release or little release. Similar pulsatile release is also seen into the men. Under the influence of pulsatile release of GnRH from the hypothalamus, LH is released into the pulsatile manner. Now we see the gonadotropin releasing hormone per se, also called as GnRH. First lot of GnRH, then also called as LHRH, is isolated by Shelley in year 1971 by extracting and processing 1 million pig hypothalami. Now we know that GnRH is a hormone which is released from the hypothalamus, and it will stimulate the anterior pituitary for release of FSH and LH. But when the first was discovered, it was processed by using the brains of 1 million pig. It is a decapeptide which is synthesized into the hypothalamus and it released into the pulsatile manner. It is also found into the placenta and in high concentration into breast milk also. Placental GnRH is involved in the synthesis and release of human chorionic gonadotropins, also called as HCG. Plasma half-life of GnRH is 2 to 8 minutes. Preparations of GnRH available in market is gonadorelin, which is a synthetic GnRH analog available as 500 microgram per ml in 2 ml syringes. Also 100 microgram ampoules are available in market. Now we see the functions of GnRH. Promotion and synthesis and release of FSH and LH, that is the main function. Predominantly it affects the release of LH, that is why it is also known as LH releasing hormone. Depends on the pubertal status of the person. Prior to the onset of puberty, FSH is the predominant hormone under the control of GnRH. But after puberty, LH predominantly is under the control of GnRH. Given in intermittent pulsatile manner, GnRH increases responsiveness of pituitary gonadotropins to GnRH itself. That effect is called as self-priming effect. Self-priming effect is not seen when GnRH is given in continuous infusion. When we give it as continuous infusion, there is initial increase for the short time followed by sustained and progressive decline into the LH secretion due to the downregulation of GnRH receptors on anterior pituitary is seen. How GnRH act? It is act by combining with the plasma membrane receptors. It is a G protein coupled receptor. It will activate the phospholipase 2, and phospholipase 2 will activate the second messenger pathway which involve IP3 and DAG. It will stimulate the calcium release from the smooth endoplasmic reticulum inside the cells, and this calcium along with the DAG will activate the protein kinase C, which will further enhance the entry of the calcium and produces the own self-priming effect. Along with the activation of protein kinase C, further cellular functions are carried out which cause secretory granules to get fused to the plasma membrane, and ultimately release of LH is seen with the GnRH. This is how the molecular mechanism of GnRH is taking place in our body. So when we should use GnRH, therapeutic uses of gonadotropin releasing hormone are: it is used for the assessment of the function of pituitary gonadotropes, to distinguish between the delayed puberty and hypogonadotropic hypogonadism. It is also used for the induction of ovulation. In patients of polycystic ovarian syndrome which are not responding to clomiphene citrate, they are prescribed with GnRH. It is used for treatment of males and females with idiopathic hypothalamic hypogonadotropic hypogonadism, also called as Kalaman syndrome. It is also part of an infertility treatment. Dose and technique of administration is most important while you are using GnRH for infertility. Pulsatile subcutaneous infusion into the dose of 10 to 20 microgram over 1 minute, to be repeated every 90 minutes for the treatment of amenorrhea and infertility due to the abnormal endogenous release of LHRH. But the pure form of GnRH is rarely used. Instead, we use GnRH analogs available in market. Agonists are gonadorelin, leuprolide acetate, buserelin, neferelin, triptorelin microspheres, goserelin acetate polymer, etc. And GnRH antagonist is ganirelix. GnRH agonist, they bind with the GnRH receptors on the pituitary gonadotropes. Following prolonged receptor occupation, they causes downregulation of the receptor. And unlike antagonist, the agonist enhances the release of gonadotropin initially. So initially there is stimulation of GnRH followed by inhibition. That is the main disadvantage of GnRH agonist into the therapy. Exogenous estrogen, progesterone and androgens inhibit the GnRH release, but only progestin exert this effect, as doses do not have marked hormonal effect. It is administered as subcutaneous or intramuscular injection or by nasal spray. They have high affinity for GnRH receptors and metabolized slowly than native GnRH. That is why they have longer half-life. Adverse drug reactions are mainly because of the huge release of GnRH into the initial phase, that is hot flushes, sweating, vaginal dryness, headache, occasionally diminished libido, depression and osteoporosis may occur on prolonged use. Therapeutic uses of GnRH agonists are certain hormone-dependent cancers like cancers of breast and prostate, central precocious puberty. They can be useful for treatment of endometriosis, also used for the large uterine fibroids, and they are also part of IVF regimen as an adjuvant to GnRH to inhibit untimely release of LH from the pituitary. Now we see GnRH antagonist. They act by competitive inhibition of the binding endogenous GnRH to GnRH receptors. They suppress the release of FSH and LH from the anterior pituitary from the onset of administration. They do not produce initial rise of FSH and LH which is there with the agonist. They do not cause initial stimulation like GnRH agonist. They are more expensive and often cause histamine release as a common side effect. Ganirelix is a substance which causes somewhat less histamine release given as subcutaneous injection. It is one of the commonly used drug into the IVF regimen as a mean of preventing LH surge during ovarian stimulation. Now we see gonadotropins. FSH and LH are endogenous gonadotropin and they are not used in therapy because the preparations are not easily available. Gonadotropin available for human therapy are human chorionic gonadotropin that is HCG and human menopausal urinary gonadotropin that is HMG. Previously used to diagnose pregnancy by the urine pregnancy test, but nowadays we use purified preparation. Previously the detection of pregnancy was based on the detection of HCG into the urine and that is carried out by observation of ovulation into the rabbit that is Friedman test or in the mouse that is Escherman-Zondek test, ovarian hyperemia in immature rats or observation of presence of spermatozoa in the cloaca of male frog called as frog test few hours after injection of the urine sample. But these techniques are obsolete nowadays. Now we do the pregnancy test by ELISA method. But one of the use of gonadotropin was to diagnose the pregnancy. Gonadotropin, LH, how it acts? It acts through the receptor which are located onto the plasma membrane. It will activate the G protein coupled receptor. It will activate the adenyl cyclase pathway which will convert the ATP into cyclic AMP. This cyclic AMP will activate the protein kinase A inside this plasma which will stimulate and phosphorylate and it will combine with the histones which are located into the nucleus and it will act the release of certain DNA and mRNA synthesis is there. So ultimately protein synthesis will take place which will stimulate the cholesterol synthesis, it will stimulate the mitochondria for more release of pregnenolone and it will stimulate the steroid synthesis. Protein kinase A will further stimulate the protein synthesis as well as directly steroid synthesis also. And ultimately testosterone is released into the blood. So the function of LH is based through the adenyl cyclase receptor. It will stimulate the DNA to form the more steroids. Human chorionic gonadotropin, it is a glycoprotein hormone of human pregnancy. Secreted by the fetal placenta, it is detected in maternal plasma several days before the first missed period. Sufficient amount is absorbed into the blood and sustains normal luteal function until placenta starts secreting estrogen and progesterone by the 3rd month of pregnancy. It is also secreted by gestational trophoblastic tumors and some non-seminomatous germinal cell tumors into the males. That is why HCG level are also used for diagnosis and monitoring of these tumors also. Pharmacological actions like LH, small doses of HCG preserves corpus luteum, prolong the secretory phase of the menstrual cycle, they increase the urinary loss of pregnenolone, they can induce a decidual reaction in endometrium even in absence of pregnancy and they can produce a pseudo-pregnancy state. Injected into the male, HCG stimulate the interstitial cells of the testes to secrete androgens. Adverse drug reactions of HCG are headache, edema, gynecomastia, precocious puberty and occasionally depression. Preparation available as HCG 2000, 5000, 10,000 and 20,000 international unit with 10 ml of diluents. for injection. Therapeutic uses of HCG. It is used for induction of ovulation. It can induce ovulation in inadequately developed follicle following endogenous FSH or exogenous HMG leading to conception. So it is one of the regimen for the infertility treatment. It is also used for the treatment of cryptorchism. Failure to descend the testis into the scrotum is called as cryptorchism, which is common into the childhood, may be present in adulthood also. HCG promotes the descent of the testis. 3000 to 5000 international unit every 3 to 4 days for 4 injections are given. Treatment should be initiated at the early age, that is 2 to 3 years of age. Hormone should not be used in presence of mechanical obstruction for the passage of the testis. Surgery, that is orchidoplasty, may be the final treatment for cryptorchism. Other uses: delayed puberty into boys. HCG given as 500 to 1000 international unit 3 times per week for 4 weeks. Once initiated, such puberty progresses without further treatment. If the puberty fails to progress, hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism is diagnosed into the males. Testing responsiveness of the immature testes to gonadotropin. Serum testosterone is measured 3 to 4 days after injection of 5000 international unit HCG. Post injection 2 nanogram per ml of testosterone level is considered as a normal response. It confirms the presence of testicular tissue in a patient whose testes are not palpable and not demonstrated by imaging techniques, where you can use this diagnostic method. Treatment of hypogonadotropic hypogonadism, where HCG given as 2000 international unit 3 times per week for prolonged periods. Enlargement of testes and development of secondary sex characteristics are initiated under the influence of HCG. Addition of HMG for induction of spermatogenesis is required into certain patients. It is also used for the treatment of luteal phase defect. It may be used to support the production of adequate amount of progesterone into the luteal phase of menstrual cycle in patients with luteal phase defect. Alternatively, progesterone can be used to supply the deficient hormone. Next hormone we are going to discuss is human menopausal urinary gonadotropin, also called as HMG. It is prepared from the urine of menopausal women, available as 75 international unit FSH and LH each. Unpurified preparations, because they are prepared from the urine of a woman, always injected for subcutaneous or IM injection to reduce the chances of allergic reaction. Nowadays, highly purified FSH preparations are available, which are used for the specialty treatment of infertility by the IVF specialist. Adverse drug reaction of HMG is hyperstimulation syndrome, which is common with HCG. Ovaries become large and friable due to maturation of many follicles under the influence of HCG or HMG. It may produce abdominal pain, nausea, ascites and shock. For prevention, keep the dose of HMG very low. Not injecting HCG if plasma estradiol level are more than 200 picrogram per ml. Then you can prevent the hyperstimulation syndrome. Other therapeutic uses are for the induction of ovulation. Women with anovulation due to pituitary hypothalamic disorders but normal ovaries or polycystic ovaries can be treated with HMG. Here HMG is given in combination with HCG. Dose is 37.5 international unit FSH and LH daily intramuscularly for 7 to 12 days with ultrasonographic monitoring of ovarian follicles for follicular development. HCG 10,000 units intramuscularly for induction of ovulation is given. If ovulation failed to occur, increase dose of HMG to 75 international unit in the next cycle. So you give FSH into the follicular phase to stimulate the follicular growth into the dose of 37.5 international unit for 7 to 12 days, that is the pre-ovulatory phase, and you induce the ovulation with the use of HCG 10,000 units intramuscularly, and if it fails to occur in the next cycle you go for the higher dose of HMG, but this is used by the IVF specialist only as a part of IVF regimen. HMG is also used for the treatment of men with idiopathic oligospermia, but that treatment is also left to the infertility specialist doctors only. So this finishes our discussion on the gonadotropins. If you have any questions, you can ask here into the comment box. Thank you.